Modernize Your Legacy Environment webinar. My name is Hilda, and I will be your operator for today. All participants are in a listen-only mode. At the end of the presentation, we will conduct a question-and-answer session. To ask a question at that time, you will need to press star 1 on a touch-tone phone. Note that this webinar is being recorded. If you need assistance at any time, please press star 0, and an operator will assist you. I would like to turn the webinar over to Bob Jeffcott. Bob, you can.
Appreciate it. Thanks everyone for joining today. Today's webinar is going to be modernizing your legacy applications, enabling your digital business platform. And I do hate to use the word legacy application. It's really the enterprise applications that you guys have. It's that run your enterprise, run your day-to-day business. The agenda today, we're going to talk about current challenges that we have in our environments and why we want to modernize. And understand everyone's here to, because they do want to modernize, but really what are the benefits of that modernization? What are the capabilities you get? And then what does it really mean to modernize? And we're going to talk about several different areas of that modernization capabilities individually, about what the different steps are, what the benefits of each of those steps go through. And then we're going to reserve probably about 15 minutes at the end for question and answer for things that you want to dive a little bit deeper into. So with that, let's talk a little bit about your world today, your landscape. I'm sure that you hear about all the challenges on a day-to-day basis. IT doesn't respond fast enough, as I'm sure are trying to do a lot more with a lot less resources. Typically, no new tools, no new resources, more and more demands. Legacy code you're dealing with, some of that code is 20, 30 years old. Have green screen technology, data logic siloed, trapped in those applications, increasing maintenance costs, hiring skill sets. So doom and gloom, but also there's value in those applications. They are tailored business logic. They're tailored to your business, your organization. It's how you run that. And the data collected and contained in there is very, very valuable data. It's a wealth of information. I know one of our customers actually has the data of their corporate assets. They actually value that information. And obviously your applications are typically mission critical. Run your day-to-day business. If those things come crashing down, your eyes stops. So there are challenges with it, but it's also a very, very critical portion of your IT enterprise. So there are approaches that people take to solving challenges they have. For the longest time, we heard the rip and replace. The ERP will solve everything. And a long time that was the way that you went. And now sometimes those ERP suites are legacy applications. Those are the things that you have challenges with. So we're seeing less and less of let's rip and replace everything, put it in with a new ERP. And the reason for that is that there are outside influences still. Still the BD that has to be addressed, the cloud, the mobile suites, the billion interfaces that you have into those applications. So the ERP is not the way people are looking at ways to become more receptive to their individual business needs. The ERP had the promise of architecture, data integrated, everything all in one place, one single system. And as a company has one of those ERPs, I can attest that even with Software AG, we don't have one single system. And then there's not that one single customization. They're complex. They are inflexible. You have to wait to the new version to come out to get some of the things, and the capabilities have to be something that has to be agreed upon by the user community. And despite the promises of cheaper, they tend to be more expensive in your businesses to meet those ERPs. So you have now people looking at modernization. And when we say modernization, really looking at four major tenets. Providing agility, and that agility is the ability to change your applications to meet changing business needs. Whether in the private sector, that is just consumer demands, or in the public sector, whether that is legislative changes, government, and usability. I know a lot of people have green screen applications that are on the call. And while for the longest time it was a concern of who are we going to get to develop those, now it really is a concern of I can't teach new employees technology. It takes longer. They have to have a lot more knowledge of the system. It isn't as intuitive. I want that modern user interface. So we're going more and more to the self-serve or citizen self-serve portals, the ability to do things yourself. I travel all the time, and I rarely, if ever, actually talk to a real person. I do everything via the web or via my mobile apps. Then really is that integration, the picking of the silos of information, sharing that information not only across your enterprise, across your own systems, but the outside world, whether that be other organizations and agencies, or customers, or vendors, other partners. You start to share that data with the world. And the next thing is the interoperability, ability to connect pieces together so that you're not tied to one monolithic system, whether it be an ERP, whether it be a custom-built application. So you can actually take advantage of the best of breed of pieces. So really the four things that we're going to talk about. Underlying is the infrastructure that supports all that, and hopefully the reduced cost that goes along with the ability to modernize. And modernizing, we talk about those basics about getting away from the applications challenges that you have, but really is moving towards a digital business. There's a lot of emerging trends, and we'll talk about this in a second, that really impact how you're doing and how your IT infrastructure needs to respond. So we talk about a single individual legacy application or group of applications, but let's look really at your landscape today. It's not just an application or two or 10. You started out with those applications, maybe an ERP. You started to build interfaces between those. Those are typically hand-built. They're batched, they're scheduled, but you get information out of them. So data warehouses, and that information so that you get a historical view across maybe your applications. But as the world emerged, there was the B2B trends, the ability to take files in, whether they be FTPs or ACHs. So then you started to have to hook all these things together and take information. So you came up with, department service buses, and those are typically hand-built as well, or very, very lightweight. But they have customer self-service portals or vendor portals. To have all things talk to your custom applications. The challenge with that is the business logic was trapped in there. So you do. And it's like, well, let me come up with reporting. And we may consist of the data warehouse and and your P and your customer management system, and then mobile came out. So you have to at least have a HTML5. Some people are adding Hadoop. So that looks much more like what a IT landscape might look like in organizations. And we do say large organizations, but it's not necessarily even true. The smaller and mid-sized ones have those kinds of challenges. You add in things like the Internet of Things into to corporations, to entities. And Internet of Things, one of the things with that is even just social. The ability to interact via Facebook, the ability to interact via Twitter. So you have all these challenges. So when we look at modernization, it's not just modernizing your legacy applications. What we want to do is we want to take and separate that business logic out so that we can actually do integration. We can utilize that data in multiple different ways. We can make better decisions, which tasks better. While trying to drive costs down, do more. Today, they said about 79% of an IT budget is spent just on maintaining this. 21% is spent on innovation. So we want to look at that digital business platform, and modernization is really the way to start to get there. So what we want to do is make all of those components accessible and make them accessible in a common platform. That is an ESB, that's connections to CRM applications, to data warehouses, to ERPs, to people-centric tasks, to a master data management solution. And you can then take that information as it flows through the ESB and actually do things with it. You can put it in memory so that when you the information flowing across, you can utilize it in a variety of different ways. Utilize it to change business logic. You can utilize it in decision making. You can utilize it to track processes across your enterprise. That if a CRM event happens, and it could then impact your SAP or your custom applications. So all things can be automated. And you can do it in a secure, scalable enterprise system. And we'll take it how we do that here. But one of the biggest things you're going to hear, you do hear today, even on ads I hear on the television, is the world of APIs. You not only make this information available within your enterprise, but you make it available to the outside world as well. First step that we're going to talk about is integration. The step is the event-driven process. What happens when you integrate two systems together? There's a business reason for that, and typically those events can cause a chain of other events to happen. And how we change those, make decisions and make rules based upon those events. We can track that whole process throughout your business enterprise. So you can start to improve it and start to automate it and truly live in a digital business world. You can do it both on-prem or, as we'll hear about today, the cloud, or a hybrid of the two. So we're going to start to talk about, and we can spend more money on and less money on supporting the application, supporting all these interfaces that you deal with today. I guess one of the things to really mention here is that this project isn't I'm going to move from the environment I have today, I'm going to modernize it, and I'll be done. A continuous transformation because you guys know the landscape changes, business needs change, legislative initiatives change, technology changes. So this isn't a way to have a project, modernize your application, and you're done. This is a a new way of thinking, a new way of doing business in the IT world. You want to take all of these things that you have today and start to fuse those, because you're going to come up with, in the last few years, if someone would have started an ERP project 3 or 4 years ago, mobile wasn't nearly as big as it is today. There's mobile applications for everything. We didn't even hear about big data and big memory. SaaS applications didn't really exist. The public APIs didn't exist. So media, wasn't nearly as big as it is today, and it wasn't used in a business sense 4 years ago. It's used huge business sense today. The Internet of Things. My washer now talks to the internet, actually talks back to the company. So these trends, are emerging and have emerged, and there's going to be more trends emerging here in the future. So what we want to do is we want to make your enterprise ready for that, and that modernization of those applications is the first step towards that. So, and we want to talk, a little bit about the pre-digital world. The innovations were through the vendors. If you did a COTS package, it was product-based. Even your custom applications that you build today, it's been around for a long, long time. They're inflexible, they're slow, they're complex. And there are some, pieces of it that someone built 20 years ago, they've since retired, no one wants to touch those things today. But, in the idea of the digital business world is it's platform-based. You can build new applications based upon the building blocks that you have. You use microservices, so you break those monolithic applications down to make it more flexible and quicker transformation. And benefits that you get from this, or I should say, I'm sorry, the building blocks, capabilities you get by that modernization, by transforming your enterprise into a digital business platform. Memory data, that provides for performance and scalability. And we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but basically the idea of if you build it, they will come. Well, what happens when they do come? So now you have a lot of data moving through your eyes, and that was not previously accessible, but now it is. So you can actually start to do real-time reporting. You don't have to worry about a data warehouse that looks backwards. You can actually look at what's happening today. The integration, connecting those multiple endpoints, the ability for systems to talk to each other, not only that, but the ability for those services within those systems to talk to each other, to build new capabilities, to build new functionality. And they do that integration, there's a process behind it. There's a business reason for integrating two systems. And sometimes it's actually the people that, that are doing those cross-system functions, and you're relying on them. So you can start to track those people and start to track those processes, alert when things are going wrong, and learn how to improve those processes. And from that, you can make, to look at the analytics and do better decision making. So actually, like we said, improve your business processes. The idea with that is that business platform put in all different components, whether it's the legacy application, whether it's a core ERP, an ERM system. And the best part about that is I can start to, as new technology emerges or needs emerge, I might be able to replace those components. So if I do eventually want to replace parts of a legacy application, I can replace those with newer, modern technology and plug it into my digital business platform. So it's no longer that disruptive force. It really is I'm plugging in a better, simple, easier way to do things. With that, let's talk about modernization and the capabilities that you need to modernize your current legacy application. And we'll start here in the upper left and work our way down. The thing is going to be service enablement. The ability to take capabilities within your current landscape. Again, when legacy applications, data warehouse, the data itself, close out and make those callable, accessible things. You can reuse those services to build new capabilities, to change the capabilities that you're utilizing today quickly and easily. Once you have these services, you are going to have to start to look at governance. So, and governance means everything from just a catalog of services. What do I have available? What do I have in my quiver? What can I build? Actually, development and runtime governance. The development of what stages are they in? Who systems do these services touch? What other what other services are dependent upon them? Runtime governance as well. What are my rules? What are my SLAs? Who can access it? What are the authorization rules? What versions? Those kinds of things. So you have to have that governance capability in there as well. And then you have these building blocks. You need the ability to orchestrate those. So you need service orchestration, the ability to connect those services together and to connect those business functions together to create new business functions. And you'll be able to have a tool that's quick and easy to use to do that. It's not something you have to hand code because then you're going to be, having to spend more testing, more time building. So if you have the tool, that enterprise service bus that can pull this together for you and snap things in and out of, that's going to give you ability to build new things. You're going to have new user interfaces. And really, I look at that from two different areas. One, let's take our existing green screen applications and let's put a new face on those. It's web, that's mobile, that's even wrapping in apps. And then also take advantage of those APIs, those new services we created. Let's build new user interfaces and doing it with WYSIWYG tools. What you see is what you get. I don't want to hand code things in Java. I don't want to hand code things in .NET. I want to be able to pull those services and plug them into a new visual UI. And when technology changes, I don't want to have to build a separate one for web, a separate one for tablets, and a separate one for smartphones. I want to certainly have to build them for different flavors of all those things. But I need to have a tool that's flexible enough to put those UIs together. Kind of the what I consider the first half, the step one. But now I have these services, and we talked a little bit about this. If we look at the next step of actually dealing with business process management, ability to monitor and manage processes across the applications, across the services that you've built. So you have the ability to say, how are my processes going? How can I improve them? Tell me when something goes wrong. Tell me something's taking too long, or automate things that may be manual today. If an event in application A happens, let's automatically take action in system B to do something else. It's the idea of the process management. And then the ability to scale. Put that in big data. Let's in memory, so I don't have to go kill my back-end systems if things become really popular. One of our customers put a lot of their information out on the web and a connection to a back-end mainframe. And, so they built it, and the web crawlers came. People were crawling across their website, mining that data so that they could resell that data. So there was a hit that their mainframe was an unexpected hit that their mainframe was taking. So they're looking at moving that into real-time memory so that they don't have to worry about any extra hits on their website causing their actual applications to slow down. The last thing really is I have all this data, whether it's in memory, whether it's going across my BPM solution, whether it's going across my enterprise service bus. Let's start to look at streaming analytics. Let's take information from a variety of different, whether it be my applications, whether it be social media, whether it be whatever, and steps based upon that. Let me look at things in a real-time format. So steps I look at for modernization, and one of the things that's going to do is I prepare you for whatever the next big thing is. And fortunately, I don't know what the next big thing is. If I did, I'd invest in the stock market. But the idea is that you future-proof your enterprise, that you have the ability to say, if something else comes along. When mobile came along, I didn't have to rip and replace everything to put in a solution for mobile. When BPM came along, when the Internet of Things came along, I didn't have to make major changes. The idea is your enterprise is now agile enough with the tools that you have in a digital business platform to be prepared for that next big thing. Let's look in more detail for each of these. So in the service enablement, we want to leverage what we have already in the environment. And we're really going to look at that at 3 levels of integration. Starting at the basic level of data. I want to be able to grab data wherever, whenever I need it. So factors for that where we can pull in the JDBC, ODBC, OLADB, something where I can access that data directly. Data, however, is not always the most ideal. You have that business logic. It's one of your differentiators. What makes you, you. So you need the ability to access that business logic. In the natural world, look at calling subprograms via NTIRX. And if it's a .NET application, the ability to introspect those net objects. So where I can actually pull the business logic that goes and does its own data access, maybe pulling data from multiple sources, maybe doing transformations in the business logic. You all need in your quiver the ability to do automation and creation of services from the presentation layer. A lot of the older legacy applications, the green screen applications, again, as we talked about, may have been built 20 years ago. The people that touch those have heard. And back, when they were built, we didn't separate out the presentation layer from the business layer from the data layer. The object-oriented wasn't really, a trend back then. So you need the ability to do that level integration, that pulling of it without ripping and changing your back-end application. You don't want to change that COBOL, that P1 natural code. You want it as is, so you need that ability. So those are 3 different ways of accessing your legacy application. We'll talk about a 4th here shortly. That's the first step. Let's pull those things that exist today, and whether it be at the data level, the business logic level, or the presentation logic. Now that I have those services, let's start to manage that in that governance. And when we talk about governance services, again, we're talking really about layers for that. One is that repository. What is it touch? Can you utilize it? And then using the development time governance. What stage is it at in development? What version am I at for this service? I have to notify if I'm going to make a change. Who do I have to notify for approval of a change? Other systems do I have to tell that I'm making a change? I'll also talk about the runtime governance. who can access this? Who can access what versions? Who can necessarily access what data in a service? Because different people might access to the same service but see a different level of information. One person might be able to see all of the customer information. Another organization might only be able to see the most basic of information. So you want all of that information available and in a central place where you can define those rules. So you want to be able to expose that information out. You want to have an API portal. Here's my services are internal, but I also have services that are external to the world. And when they are external, it might be external to your organization, but still within yours, or it might be actually external to your vendors, to your customers. It might be accessible to the world. You know, you see that a lot today, like with Google services. Everyone embeds Google Maps. But actually go to Google, there's a whole API suite of tools that you can utilize that are publicly available. And it's the world that we're going to. And one of the things that, you know, companies and even companies are looking at are monetizing the services. Make it publicly available, but after 5 or 10, you got to start paying us for it. I build services, now I have to have a tool that will allow me to govern them, and that above and beyond the spreadsheets that a lot of people use today for their web services. Now that I have all these services, I need the ability to orchestrate those. And what we do is we orchestrate those with an enterprise service bus. So I call those services and build new capabilities using my service bus. So I talk to the back-end databases. I can talk to the custom packages, the custom application, the packages, the B2B, the other publicly available services that are out there. And other things, you know, we talked about internally building services, whether it be at the level, the business level, or the data level. Also need in your service bus adapters. And something that Software AG provides with their service bus is a whole suite of adapters, so you can talk without coding. You can talk to databases. You can talk to SaaS offerings like Source. You can talk to packages like SAP without having to build code. The part about those adapters is as technology changes, the adapters change, but your service doesn't change. You don't have to go back and rebuild things. So I have that orchestration of new services, and one of my favorite stories of a service bus. We had a customer here in Florida where I'm based. They had a system. Their custom system actually tracked all of their buildings and rooms, and as well as a lot of other things. They had a package that actually did their inventory management. They had a database that did all of their accounting information. They had an audit criticism that said, look, you're not tracking your IT assets. And about the manual that said, hey, GAAP says if it's under, I don't remember what number, I think $500 or $1,000, we don't have to actually track those in an inventory. They say, yeah, but because now things are mobile, you know, your tablets, you have cell phones, smartphones, you have, you know, laptops that are easily movable, you should be able to inventory that. So they looked at an RFP, sent out, and they got your responses to do an inventory of all of their IT assets across their 5 different campuses and their other sites. It was a 6-figure, and it was going to take about 6 months to do this inventory of all their IT assets. And in 6 months, they get delivered an inventory that would quickly become obsolete. So they said, what can we do? But they said, look, you know what? We already have a system that tags all of our stuff. We already have a system that tells us where all our facilities are. We have a database where we can store all this information. Let's use our service bus. Let's build a map that allow us to leverage our smartphone to scan barcodes. Actually, they use QR codes on all the IT assets. We'll make a call back to the facility to ensure that that's truly where they are, and record that that asset is in that building, in that room, and in our database. They built it in 2 weeks. It cost them $0 to build. They deployed it out among all their IT folks. They completed their IT inventory in about a month and a half. And it was, it was only updated as people went to different facilities. And interesting side things is they said, well, let's throw this up. Since we have all this information, let's put it in a dashboard. And one of the things they noticed, they leveraged the service and said, hey, well, most of our is either Apple or Dell. Let a call to their publicly available API to get the information and the warranty information. And one of the things they noticed is majority of their IT assets were about to go out of warranty in the next 6 months. So they realized that they had a huge bill coming up that they wouldn't have been aware of if they hadn't built this completely new system based upon a completely new requirement in a very, very short period of time. So just one of the benefits of that orchestration allows you to respond much more quickly, allows you to build new capabilities without a lot of expense. And one of, I think, a story I like to tell is also about TA, Georgia Technology Authority. They went through this transformation. They went through this data sharing. And while today it's over 20 agencies, over 300 processes, and over 24 million data exchanges, everything that gets exchanged at the state of Georgia between agencies is done through SARG's Enterprise Service Bus. The reason why I like their example, it started out with agencies and one process integrated together. This worked out pretty well. It was a great benefit. Let's get doing another agency. And so soon it grew to be their standard of how agencies in the state of Georgia share information, saving them millions of dollars and allowing them to do things much more quickly, much more easily. The step is creating a new user interface. And when next, I don't necessarily mean it's step A, step B, step C. You can do things in parallel. You can do whatever makes the most sense, gives you the biggest bang for the buck. But capabilities is turning those existing uses or leveraging those new APIs you've created. And the way we can do that is taking the green screens that you have today, using app links, using Jakarta, using the session level integration capabilities, and presenting a new UI. And we have a lot of customers that have done that very successfully, so that it's a more intuitive, a more modern, a more mobile approach. And it's both at the web level and at the smart and tablet level, so that you leverage HTML5. So you have that ability without changing your back end to things out in a new, more modern technology, new, more modern way of presenting out your capabilities. And I think the biggest thing for that is the ability to hire, train new users, or even push it out into the external community, whether it be your customers or your vendors or your citizens. And the other way is to build those, much like the example I gave in Florida, to a new application using those variety of APIs, those services that you guys created. So that's actually something new, leverage services. And typically you want to use WYSIWYG tools. Would be something like software uses CAF, which is a drag and drop. I want to connect this service to this UI, and I'd like to make a radio button, and I'd like to make a drop-down box and those kinds of things. Or whether it be something like the Agile apps, where it is a lot of pre-built user interfaces that you drag and drop and change based upon the services that you're calling. So that you can leverage all of those new capabilities in a new, easy-to-use format application, whether it be a website. We talked about earlier of the services that are now crossing multiple applications, maybe even crossing outside of your enterprise. You really want the ability to take, just realized I stole our German version, not the version, so I do apologize. But that ability to orchestrate those services above and beyond just ordering services to create new functions, but actually to create new processes. Be able to change those processes again with that drag and drop capability without having to code. I can now start to simply either track. I want to track what these services do when they're executed, or manage those and make rule changes based on what is occurring within those processes. I can do alerts. I can start to do orchestration of services and automate processes that may have been manual, or processes that had required end user knowledge to say, okay, I did something in this system, I need to now go do something in this system based on that. You can actually automate those processes. So you start to get that data flowing not only between systems, but across your business processes. It is efficiency. You can manual work. You can start to do alerting based upon SLAs that aren't being met. You prove transparency by being able to watch what those processes are doing and when they go awry, and one are better, have better times than others. You can allow faster changes. You can utilize that BPM tool to actually make changes in your business process, and innovate by actually creating new, by launching those new services within a process, a new approval process, a new tool estimating process, something that can be drag and dropped quickly and easily into that business process. And really quickly about two more capabilities. That big data, we talked a little bit about that, build it and they will come. Well, how do I handle it when they come? So the things you want to do is you want to push that data into memory. Okay, one, reduces your back-end core application, and it gives you that data, variety of different sources, access. I can now start to do, real-time dashboards. I can start to do report and analytics in memory that I couldn't do before, that I could only look backward. Well, now I can look not only historical, but how my world today is reacting based upon those historical trends. And we do this a couple different ways. We have the ability with database and other databases to replicate data out of the database and in memory, so that those can be accessed by applications, by smart technologies, those kinds of things. Or simply, as I start things through my ESB, as those changes are made, I can drop those changes into memory, so I can make checks to say, hey, is it in memory already? If it is, great, go grab it from there. If it's not, go and pull it from the original data source. So that alleviates your back and core application stress, but you access to a lot more information easier. And what we do with that is, now that I have that in memory, I start to do streaming analytics. It's pretty easy in applications to say, based upon this information in my application, make this decision. But a couple things. One, that usually is in its own silo and its own bubble, looking at external forces. Also, typically that's done in a report. Maybe if you're great in an email. But what you do is as you stream this stuff through your memory and through your service bus, you can start to do analytics, and you can start to influences, whether it be something like media, whether it be external sources, again, outside of your organization. You know, you can pull in something, you know, weather nation from weather.com, anything like that. Actually start to do analytics so that you can be proactive rather than reactive. So you can see that trends are coming, you know. People are tweeting bad things about your organization. You can start to intercept that. What's going on in your ERP? If something that may be impacting them, then I can take advantage of and be reactive to that, to their dissatisfaction. And it's a government example here because I've been doing a lot of government, but this really does apply to both government and private industry as well. You know, getting that digital business platform, the ability to do integration, to do memory, to do, you know, analytics, to do that transformation, really is a way to give better service to your citizens, to your customers, to your business partners, employees. It's a quicker, easier way of addressing things rather than a rip and replace. I just do one pitch since I am going to be up there and I am going to be talking about specifically about big memory and about our ability to replicate information into big memory. I want to invite you guys to our digital business days. It's October 3rd and 4th at the W Hotel in New York. Our keynote speaker is Steve Wozniak, and he will actually sit down and answer your questions about almost anything. I'd met him, and he is very, very entertaining person. So you can register for this on our website. It's a great in-depth look at all the things we've talked about today. And it's a chance for you to share with other customers their experience, and we will have customers sharing their stories as well. With that, I really just want to remind you, we talked about, you know, for the modernization capability, service enablement, service governance, orchestration, use cases, BPS, big data, big memory, and analytics. And that, I think we are going to open it up to questions. Hilda?
We'll begin the question and answer session. If you'd like to ask a question, please press *1 on your touchtone phone. If to be removed from the question queue, please press the # sign or the # key. Once you have a question, please press *1 on your touchtone phone. Question from Joey from the California Department of Human Services. Please go ahead.
The California Department of State Hospitals, not Human Services. Anyway, that we are not to rip and replace. Is there rig savings in trying to keep your data on the mainframe versus moving it to an SQL database? You know, I ask that because yes, trying to maintain two. Now you're streaming data from a mainframe to SQL or their platform, and then to put it in memory and then do your presentation there. Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I didn't touch on it here, and it's really good to bring it up, is challenges that you see with the, we looked at the various different that you had and the various, different integration points. A lot of that, you're right, you're replicating data, and that's the idea of the service bus, is not to replicate that data, but only have it accessible in one spot. You don't have to move data from the mainframe into SQL Server. That if the information of record is in the mainframe, let's pull it from there. We might put it in memory for access, but let's leave it in there and let's leave whatever data is appropriate. So I'm not replicating data. And when you look at the mainframe, you do look at ongoing costs. It is expensive, but also the business that resides there, the applications that reside there, replacing those tend to be expensive to replace those for that rip and replace. Really, is the idea is you have data of record residing in one system, and just let me touch on one other thing with that. We've had a lot of high-profile hacks lately, especially when we look at state and federal government. And I know a couple of those that I'm aware of, it was not that a primary system was hacked. It was actually, as you said, that data was replicated to secondary, less secure system, and it was hacked from those secondary systems. So the idea, when you do have that service bus, is you have the ability to pull data from wherever it resides so that you're not duplicating it. So you're not dealing with what is a customer, what is a person, what is a name, which one's the real record of truth. You only have one. Does that help?
You give some points. I think where I'm coming from is the data, it resides on the mainframe, still has to go to, platform is being used. Let's say we're using SQL at the point, because one, it's sure to produce some of the trend reports or whatever reports that's required on the SQL database than on the mainframe. Two, you have to move the data from the mainframe to the other platform in order for you to use the benefit of that big memory or memory.
Well, again, depending upon how you're getting at that data, you should be able to replicate that data out. Instead of replicating it into SQL Server, replicate it strictly into memory. It gives you that ability then for that scalability and those kinds of reporting directly from memory rather than getting it. So you would be changing some of your processes, absolutely. And that's kind of the idea of placing some of those interfaces and some of those duplications. And I know SQL Server is certainly less expensive than the mainframe, but if you can move it instead of from the mainframe to SQL Server, move it from the mainframe into memory, that would be, in the long run, reducing your dependency on one of those components.
Into memory, are you referring to within mainframe or?
Typically, you're looking at an LUW platform, Linux, Unix, Windows.
Yeah.
Memory is certainly much cheaper.
That's right. All right. I just want your thoughts on that because I know
Okay.
it will be a big
And absolutely, the cycles, one of the goals of this, as we talked about for the various things, is cycles, reducing the cycles on your legacy applications because,
yes.
We do have customers that will take every 5 minutes and try to replicate data into another system just to keep those things in sync. And those are expensive. So if you can pull real-time data and then push it into big data, into big memory, and only access that data when rather than try to replicate it and read it all the time to see what's changed, I think is a
unfortunately, as a state hospital, data is always in flux. It's all changing because of additions of the bed in the hospital.
Right.
Pretty much changes.
There are tools to replicate those changes out. And once you replicate into a service bus, then you can replicate it into memory pretty easily. So.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Question from Brian Johnson from Eaton Corporation.
Hi, Bob. My question refers to the earlier slide you showed where, the USB was pretty much the foundation for this digital business platform that you've been describing in your presentation. And it implies the use of SOA, implies that you use maybe SOAP-based web services to integrate, say, using NTireX to expose natural objects as web services to this architecture. But what prevents that technology itself from becoming legacy, where maybe SOAP is replaced by something new? I hear this talk about APIs now. Is that replacing SOAP, or will SOAP become legacy and maybe more so than the applications we're trying to expose with it?
Sure. And actually, that is SOAP is absolutely becoming legacy, and really the drive for that has been mobile doesn't like SOAP, mobile applications. They prefer REST. That seems to be emerging. Not emerging anymore. That seems to be the trend is you're doing REST-based services rather than SOAP-based services. And specifically, that is why you want something like a service bus, because, and with your example, there is actually, with your service bus, there's the ability to connect directly to NTireX. Skipping the whole ability to wrap it as or need to wrap it as a service, whether it be SOAP. But with the service bus, I invoke a SOAP service. What we're working about with the adapters is I can make a click and either access or publish that same capability out as a REST service. So the idea is that the service bus, our integration server, with the adapters, with the abilities, as things change, it just with it. So while we publish out as SOAP, using integration server, we push out as SOAP or REST, and it's just a click of the button to make that change. And as far as specifically as NTireX, because we do a direct connection to integration server, and integration server has those capabilities to alternate, that's how they're planning on doing it. You can do REST services with NTireX, but it's a pain in the butt, and I get the R&D folks to change it because they just say, well, we kicked to IS, and I have one that does the REST service.
Is there any, we don't use, unfortunately, your platform, but would I handle that then by not worrying about that I create SOAP services straight with a SOA framework, but we're just that I'm connected to a SOA framework generically? If the SOA framework turns around and exposes whatever services it has in its repository, it can make that rest if the consumers of that can for rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, much like with NTRX, as you can have multiple wrappers, integration server, I can expose it out as SOAP and REST and JMS and, you know, whatever the next tag is from that. So absolutely.
All right, Bob.
And for any questions, please press *1. In Bob moment, I am not seeing further questions. I would like to turn it back over to you for any other remarks.
All right. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time and attention today. I should have put my email on this, but I think that Brady has the ability to reach out to you guys. So if you have any questions or any other deeper delve on, we're happy to do that. And also, just again, a reminder for those, especially those of you on the East Coast, to look at our digital business days, see if it's of interest to you.
Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we conclude today's webinar. We'd like to thank you for participating. You may now disconnect.